Welcome to session 14 of designing and building your own flute in Fusion 360. And today we come to the project of assembling the entire flute. Foot joint, middle joint, barrel, head joint. So for each of these we have a file. And you can see we're viewing this in the render workspace. So I'm just going to change that back to the design workspace, and we'll expand the browser and we'll expand the data panel. You can see we have each of the key files in the data panel. I've put the finished file for each one into a separate folder for clarity for this exercise, and I've called that folder Flute Assembly. Okay, before we do the assembly, build it here in the final assembly for this class, we need to go through each of the other files and confirm several things. One, you need to make sure that you're happy with the physical material. I've gone here with light oak for reasons of contrast on the screen for the purpose of the video. The other thing you need to check is that the last icon in your history is setting everything up as a rigid group. By selecting the top line here, everything is selected, and then go to assemble and set it up as a rigid group. Now I've done that already. So if you have that icon at the end of your history for this design, you're good to go. And then you make sure, if you make changes now, make sure you actually save the changes. So the foot joint good, icon in place, head joint good, icon in place, middle joint good, icon in place. Okay, so that's the complete one, and this is where we're going to go. Now, so we're going to right click on the head joint and we're going to insert it into current design. And you're offered 6 options on each of the 3 axes. Firstly, you can lift it vertically, send it north, bring it east or west or south. You can rotate it. And it's worth your while trying each one of those. And when you do that, keep an eye here. So let's just try one of those. You see the degrees changing here. Brings it back. So don't be afraid of playing around with that. We're good though. It's on the right axis. So we built all of our files longitudinally along the x-axis. So everything should come in line. So what's the next piece to bring in? The next piece, you can bring them in any order and put them anywhere. But I'm going to bring in the barrel next and insert into current design. You can see where it landed. I'll just bring it along here. Now, that's not its final position. It's just putting it in line for jointing later on. The next one we bring in is the, where's it got? Barrel, middle joint. Insert into current design. And we'll bring it there. And we'll bring the foot joint last. So if your files or if your designs are all over the horizon here, facing the wrong way, some of them vertical, some of them horizontal, or none of them in line, because of various errors you've made back along the design process as you designed each one of them. All of that can be fixed here by the process of assemble joints. Assemble joint. Okay, so you need to have an order of events, and you need to pick target profiles to actually joint. So the order of events we're going to follow here is we're going to joint the foot joint to the lower, or sorry, to the middle joint. So we need to pick the profiles we're actually going to joint. So I'm going to zoom in this area. Bring it, oh, where did it go? Come down here. And I'm going to target two circular profiles. The first one, I'll just escape out of this pan tool, is that profile there, and I'm going to joint it to that profile there. So let us assemble joint. And then this brings up the joint dialog. So I haven't selected any components yet. First thing I do is I decide what kind of motion this is going to be. Now you'll get used to these. You have rigid, revolve, slider. They'd be the three most commonly used. So this is going to be rigid, so that'll be fine. Now, so I need to pick component 1. Now if I pick this as component 1 and that as component 2, this will move to that. That has been my experience. So I'll pick this one and this one. You can see we've one selected and one selected. And you can see that the bodies sort of become transparent. That's just to give you a, well, in its own mind, it thinks it has a clearer view of what's going on. We're going to leave the rest of the joints, the offsets, the angles unchanged. Hit OK. We just go front on that. That looks good. So we'll save our work at that stage. And you can see that we have a new icon in the history. And if you wish to, you can edit that joint and play around with it, changing offsets and angles. We'll cancel that, we're happy. So the next one we want to do is to go here. And I'll just go take that view there. That should give me access to everything. Now I'd encourage you to play around with selecting different profiles and seeing how they work. All you have to do is go back here and delete the joint and recommence. You're probably going to make lots of errors in this, so don't be disheartened, just keep pushing on. And I want motion again to be rigid, position all to be at 0. Okay. Looking good. So the next joint is going to be a little bit different because we want to use a slide joint. A slide joint in later work will let you move the full body, the lower body of the flute up and down the slider in animations. I'm not going to cover animations. They can be dealt with by many other YouTube instructors. What we're just simply going to do is we're just going to put the joint, create the joint, and so that we can get a working copy of a final flute. So we'll go there, see what we get. Now, this is the 1920 nickel silver slider, and this is the 2021 nickel silver slider. So we want to match the outer ring of that one to the inner ring of this one. Joint. We want to start with this as component 1. Now you can see that it just came to touch. So what I'm going to do now is just going to move it up a little bit to -10, which is, I actually go to -15. So that gives us, I think, a 15mm overlap with a 5mm gap left. Oh, we went the wrong way. We went out the y-axis instead of coming up the x-axis. The number of times I've done this. Back I go, and I'll edit the joint. And this time I'll look at it from the front. I'll store the y to 0. I'll offset the x, offsetting the z. Well, let's see what it does. We'll go to 15, see what we get. Turned out to be the right axis. Such is life. So I did something strange there, but no worries, it's looking good, trust your eye. So we will save everything, user saved, and we'll have a good look at it. Go home. We have the tone holes visible. And they're in line with the embouchure. And the 2 vent holes are at the back. So let's see now, we want to get those vent holes. Through 90 degrees to face forward here. So that was the first joint we did. And we want it to be 90. It could be -90, but we'll try 90 first. Et voila. So everything is oriented the way we had hoped. Now, you may see little icons like these. You may even have brought them in with the individual files. If you brought them in with the individual files, go back to the original file and I'll show you here. See joints. And make sure that eye has a line across it. Hide the joints there. So, and do the same here now. And all the joints are hidden. If that is not, if that gap is too wide, edit joint. Now you'll see that it doesn't appear to bring everything with it yet. But once you hit OK, you're good. We'll go again. So that's probably closer to an actual playing distance. So save your work and you have your flute built. So what we're going to do now is we're going to play around with this, making a couple of changes. So let's say now the changes you make are up to yourself. This is fun time now. We'll go back to we'll go to the foot joint. No, sorry, not the foot. Oh, we'll stick with the foot joint. So do you see the way I clicked on that bed hole? And these sergeant stripes came up over this icon. So that click found it, or identified the component here, the extrusion here. If I click here now, I get these two circles. So let me do something here. We'll edit the sketch. And the original values were 11. We'll make them 13. Finish the sketch. And the holes have gotten bigger. Save that. And we'll go back to the assembly. Up comes the warning. And we bring through the change. Now, don't want that to be permanent. So we'll just do Control Z, Control Z, Control Z, and you go back to 11, and you finish the sketch. You save the sketch. Version number changes. Go back here, and we will get the warning and undo the change. We'll try another one then in the head joint. So we'll modify the head joint. And this time we will modify the physical material. And we will go for plastic. We'll go with acetyl resin black and drop it on the head joint. Close. Save. Back we go to the final assembly. Up comes the warning. Fresh. So you can assign any physical material you want to the flute, to any part. You could change all the golden rings back to silver if you liked. Okay, so we'll go back and we'll revert to the original. It was in the head joint. Control Z, save, save. So now you have your flute assembled and you want to show off your work. There are 3 different ways for actually showing off your work. Let's say you want to share it with a maker and explain how the cross section of any one of these things, any one of these sections appears. We'll do this with the full flute, because you can do a new drawing and save it first. And a new drawing from design, so everything is selected. Use a template I created, which is an A4 landscape template. Okay, we'll just generate some room for ourselves, and we'll put in the base view. I picked a ratio here or a scale that gets everything fitted onto the screen. You could put in 3 point or 2.8. Didn't like that. We fit 2.7. Oh, I didn't like 2.8. Okay, 1 to 2.7. So that's just the outside lining of the flute itself. So we'll double click on the dark grey line. Brings back up the dialog box. That shows all the inner workings of it. And that shows a graphic illustration of the actual finished article. It's not perfect from an aesthetic perspective. It doesn't show a good rendering of the timber or anything like that. But it can function very well when you're in production drawing mode, explaining what you've done to people. Now, I'm going to take a cross section of it and I want the actual tone holes to appear. So we'll close that. I just changed the view, the orientation. Now, we haven't done this before. Go to create a section view. That's the item we want. Now you can just zoom in on this and see little things get selected here. This is the start of the line for the cross section. So invariably we want the middle. So we click, we don't actually click there. We have selected the view. So we just move out here. And you see the dotted line appears. Click now. And we move this way and you can see the dotted line is sort of anchoring the mouse. So click there again and hit that little green correct mark. Oh yeah. And hit OK. You can see we now have a beautiful cross section. Oh. Okay, took the wrong view there. This is Life and Fusion. How it changes oftentimes can be difficult. So, having played around with all of the views on offer, I couldn't restore the mouthpiece and the head joint back to the left hand side, so we have to figure out a different way of doing it other than the drawing view. Close that and we'll go to modify, rotate. Now this can be awkward enough. Rotate. Specify base point. We'll take there. Doesn't do it. So we rotate again, select, transform, specify base point, get it horizontal, click, hit OK. Now we'll grab it. Just shifting the view. So we have it oriented the right way now. So now we'll go back to the thing we wanted to do all along, which is create the cross-section view. Wait for the computer to do its thing. For some reason that didn't bite. Okay, here we have it. So now you have a reasonable representation of the flute, both in full view and in cross section. I'm not sure why that blue line is persisting there, but it's one of the sort of things you have to look up and go fix. Possibly even start the whole thing all over again. Welcome to Fusion 360. But you can see a nice cross section. Ornamental plug, cork, 2 nickel tubes, silver tubes, tone holes, and the vent holes. Okay, not going to bother saving that one. Back here, now we're going to look at the render workspace. Oh, sorry, in a drawing, you could have exported that as a PDF. And I'll just go back and I'll do File, New, Drawing to show you where that is. It's there. All you have to do is export a PDF, and you can generate a PDF file for sharing of whatever you have in this drawing. Don't save. We'll now go to the render view, and we'll fill this, and you could possibly say, let's go home. Let's say this is what you're going to render. You just simply take a straightforward image of this. So I'll click on that and show you the workspace. You need to make sure here is that the transparent background is ticked. Otherwise you get this grey background. And it's very hard to do anything with it then in another application. Let's say you want to put it into a word processing document or a PowerPoint presentation. Even when you have it saved, you probably need to take it to a graphics editor such as Photoshop or its equivalent and trim it, get rid of all the excess space. But that's one way of getting a final image. So just cancel that. The other way you can do it is to in-canvas render. And you get this chap happening down here. And the computer then starts on the local processor to do some ray tracing. And it gives you a progress report down here. So we're 12 seconds into it here. It's going to stop at excellent. So it took 23 seconds to get to excellent. And you can drive it all the way to final by moving that slider up, or to infinite if you're prepared to wait a good while. Then you go back here and you capture the image again and it's okay. I'm not going to do it. And the final way then is to go straight to render. Now you have choices to make here. You can get it to render in the cloud, for which you will be charged and you need to get 2 credits. So you want to use your local renderer, which is your local computer, and just simply render. And we want the transparent background. Now I'll hit this. That's accepting the width of the screen. We'll have a look down at the rendering gallery. Here you can see progress going along here. These are ones I did previously getting ready for this video session. And you can see how the rendered Scots Oak looks quite different to the actual Scots Oak in the design view. Okay, that completes the session. We leave that run. Thank you for persisting as far as here. And hopefully we'll meet you again on another project. Thank you.